Moodle allows you to sort students into groups. There are three types of group settings. No groups. This means there are no groups in the course, and collaborative spaces such as forums or wikis. Everyone can see what the others are posting. There's visible groups, in which group members work in their own group, but they can also see the work from other groups. And then finally there's separate groups, in which group members can only see posts or the work within their own group and cannot see other groups. You can create groups manually and filter students into groups yourself by sort of a process of selecting who should be in which group. However, Moodle also pulls in the information from My Campus, and you could use this to get your students into groups, and this is the process I'm going to take you through. So you need to be inside your course and on your course page, and then from the administration block on the right hand side, if you click Users to expand that section, and then you click the enrolment methods, expand that section, and click on the University of Glasgow enrolment database. This will take you to the page, the enrolment database page, and you can see the third tab is the groups tab. If you click that, you can see the information that Moodle has pulled in from My Campus, and we have this option where we can put it into the course groups, so students can be filtered into different groups via the course codes that you have used to get students enrolled. So if you wanted ArtMed 1001 and ArtMed 1002 to be separate groups, you would just check that, and that's going to, if you save changes, create two groups of students. However, you can also filter it into further groups, so you have these as additional options within the groups. You have the information that it's picked up from My Campus, which is the lab groups, the lecture groups, and the workshop groups. So you could filter this class and get them into more groups by each section, and we'll do that to both. So once we've selected all the groups that we want to use, and again, just to reiterate, that is pulling the information from My Campus. So selected the groups we want to use, and we hit Save Changes. And again, this will take a wee bit of time just to pull in all that information and pull everything together. So that's it, created the groups, and just to double check that, what I'll do is I'll show you how to find the groups. So if you go to the Users tab in the administration block again and just expand that, and you click on groups, you will see the groups listed, and if you were to click on one, you would see the members listed, but I've had to blur that out just for sort of data security reasons. If you were to click the overview, you'll also see the groups listed here, and you can see who are the members of that group there as well and get access to them. So that's just a way to check that your groups have been created. So once you have set up groups on your Moodle course, there are a few different ways that you can enable groups. So first off, you can enable them simply by turning the editing on, and any activity which allows you to use groups will have this icon to the side of it, and just clicking on this icon will allow you to toggle through the different group modes. So the first one is no groups, and then you have separate groups where the two people are separated, and then you have visible groups, which brings them closer together where they can see each other's work but not interact. The second way to enable groups would be through the activity settings. So that can be done when you are setting up an activity, or it can be done through the course page. So to do it through the course page, you would turn the editing on, and next to any activity, choose the edit settings from the edit menu, and scroll to the common module settings, and in here select your group mode. So we're going to set this for separate groups, and if we just scroll then down and hit save and return to course, you'll see now that this has changed the group mode, and we can now turn the editing off, and that is enabled for separate groups. The other option is to set the group mode at the course level, and what that will mean then is that any activities that are added to the course automatically have this group mode set. So if we are inside our course and from the course page, if we scroll down and in the administration block hit edit settings, and inside the course settings we scroll down and find the groups section and expand that. We can set the default group mode to, again we'll set it to separate groups, so that means any activities that are added automatically are set with separate group mode. Now we can also force that, meaning that you can only have a separate group mode inside a course, but in this case I'm just going to leave that open, meaning that group modes can be changed for each individual activity. But once you're happy with your group mode, you just hit save and display. So that's now returned me to the course page and the group mode is set at course level. So groupings are used when you want to restrict activities and make them invisible to only specific sets of users. If you assign an activity to a grouping, then only that grouping will be able to see the activity and do the activity. It will be completely invisible to other groups or groupings. So in this tutorial I'm going to look at setting up groupings. The first thing that you need to do is to be on your course page, and from the course page if you go to the administration block and scroll down to users and expand that section and click groups. Now from here you'll see the page that lists the groups that you have, but the area you want to be interested in is the tab at the middle at the top. If you click the groupings tab and you create a grouping, and you give, in the grouping you'll need to give it a name, so we'll call this, just for example, we'll call it activity viewers. You can ignore the grouping ID number, and you could just, to remind yourself at a later date what exactly this grouping does, what the purpose of this grouping does. And once you've entered in the relevant information, if you just hit save changes, and here you see that you now have a grouping called the activity viewers, and there are no groups attached to this yet. So that is one thing that's important, is that groupings can only be used with the groups. You filter groups into a grouping, you don't filter individuals into a grouping, it's groups into a grouping. So the next thing that you'll need to do then is add groups to your grouping, and to do that, the best way to do that is to use the groups and grouping icon on the right hand side here. So if I click that, and I'll see a list of on the left hand side, the existing groups that are in this grouping, and as you can see there are none, and I'll see the groups that I can use. So in this example I only want the lecture groups to see these activities, so I will select the lecture and add it across, and you'll see it's jumped into the existing members, and then I will select the other lecture and add that across as well, and that is it. That is how to create a grouping. So if I go back to the groupings, I will now see that it's listed who is in that grouping. So with that grouping you can now return to your course page. So to then enable a grouping for an activity, you would need to turn the editing on, and from this menu on the right hand side of any activity, now it is only activities, you would then click the edit settings, and if we scroll down to the common module settings, now you'll notice that the grouping is sort of greyed out, and that is because you can only use groupings if you have groups set up already. So we'll enable groups for this first, and then in the grouping menu you would choose the activity viewers. So what that is saying is that's saying that only the people who are attached to the activity viewers grouping can see this activity. So I just confirm that, add group and grouping to access restriction, And that is that done. So if I then hit save and return to course, and if I turn the editing off, you will now see that this has this sort of greyed out look. This is just to let me, the tutor, know that this is set up with groupings. So you can see now that the groupings are in effect on your course.